Welcome to Morning Momentum with Coffey, a podcast that's dedicated to motivating you with inspiring stories through the power of momentum. Each week, business growth leader, international speaker, trainer, coach, and author Betti Coffey sits down with a new industry leader to find out who they are, what they're doing, and how the power of momentum drives them towards success. Because when you've got momentum, stuff gets done, things happen, and you're on top of the world. You can accomplish anything. And that's what this show is all about, creating unstoppable momentum. It's Morning Momentum with Coffey. Take it away, Betti.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Morning Momentum with Coffey podcast. As you know, if you have the right mindset and you have momentum, you can absolutely accomplish anything. Anything. Now, let's do a reality check. We are deep into the COVID area right now, and it's tough. It's really, really tough. Yeah, Betti can say, yeah, if you have the right mindset and you have momentum, you can accomplish anything. But sometimes it can be a little tough to do that, especially in sales. Think about that. I really believe now that businesses are encountering some of the greatest challenges they've seen in over the last decade. And for their sales teams, for their sales leadership, to lead them well during this whole COVID area where everybody is experiencing change and the need to change and be resilient and to adapt and to be positive and to, no matter what, keep driving. Think about salespeople and sales leadership. So I think that's really kind of tough right now. And I am so excited today to have as my guest, Jim Jacobus. This is a powerhouse in sales. And so if you are involved in any type of sales leadership, sales management, sales, we're all involved in sales. We're constantly selling ourselves. We always have to be up there. We always have to let people know what's going on and to have them agree with us. And there's many different kinds of sales and salesmanship. Jim Jacobus is the expert. Let me tell you about Jim. He is the absolute consultant of choice for some of the top sales management organizations around the globe. He has provided strategic tactics, real world skills, and different mindsets and customized programs to exceptional companies that want to deliver measurable bottom line results. That's what it's all about. It was like that before COVID, and it's really like that now. Just a few of Jim's highlights in his career is he has designed, developed, and delivered sales and sales management training programs for clients like PricewaterhouseCoopers, Halliburton, AkzoNobel, Toyota, and many others. He's dealt with the big guys. Plus, I think he'll share with us some of these smaller companies that he's worked with. He has delivered over 1,100 keynotes, breakout sessions, sales training, whatever is needed to up the ante and the momentum in sales teams. He is the preferred consultant by a who's who of companies who's worked with Jim and his team to select, develop, and retain the top sales and sales management talent of today. So, Jim Jacobus, I am so thrilled to have you on the program today. Welcome to the Morning Momentum with Coffey.
Well, hey, Betti, first, thank you so much for that great introduction. I need for you to travel with me and help build the momentum in the audiences I get ready to speak to. I could use that myself every day. I'm going to call you in the morning, let you wake me up and get me rocking and rolling. So,
whoa, well, that's what I'll do. I'll be happy and do that. I should offer that as one of my offerings.
You should have that. That's a service. I'll wake you up and get you rolling every day.
There it is. Sell the service. I saw you in action about 6-7 years ago at a conference, and you really made an impression. You were not a bunch of fluff. You really weren't. You were down, you were factual, you were honest, and it made sense. Everything you said, Jim, was making sense. So that's why I'm so honored to have you on the show today. I really am. I'm thrilled to have you.
Well, again, Betty, I really appreciate that. I think if you ask most of my clients or people that sat in the audiences, they would say something I hear over and over again is that Jim has a been there, done that, still working on it attitude.
Yeah.
I am constantly a work in progress. I'm constantly learning. And I think that's one of the things that makes audiences appreciate what we do is that I'm very transparent. I don't have it all figured out. We are very good at what we do. You were just talking about the challenges we have today with COVID and what's going on out there. I would tell you that, yeah, it's a completely different landscape, but with that landscape comes opportunity.
Yes.
I have long shared with potential clients that my best clients train right now. Right now is when they're doing training. Right now is when they're doing consulting because they know this too shall pass and they want to be at full speed when the gates open up again. So yes, it's tough out there, tougher than ever before, but that tough time brings a lot of opportunity for people who are willing to take advantage of it and embrace new technology like this.
Exactly.
I mean, this technology is amazing. So
it might take a couple different skills, but yeah, it's a change for salespeople. They're not able to get out there and hug people and shake hands and be with people in a huge area and make a sales presentation. But there's other ways to get across it, and it can be, sometimes challenges are fun. I find challenges as being fun.
I do too.
And it's a great opportunity to learn and to grow further. And yeah, you and I are talking on the same thing. So tell our audience more about who you are and what it is that you do.
Well, in a thumbnail, I've been in the business now for almost 30 years. I started off doing the keynotes, almost went bankrupt, and then went to work for Fred Pryor seminars 4 days a week, 40 weeks a year, 8 hours a day, doing all-day workshops. I learned how to make a living until I learned how to make a living. And then my keynote business began to pick up. That led to training opportunities, that led to consulting, and that led to executive level coaching. So today, I help my clients do a better job of selecting talent in the first place. And that tends to be more consulting and coaching. And then we design, develop, and roll out large selling and sales management training products for our clients. And then we also do some consulting on the back end when it comes to retention. And retention is all about upstream, downstream from the sales process. Do we have the right accounting department? Do we have the right marketing materials? What's our comp plan look like? So at the end of the day, what I tell people is I'm a sales guy. I always have been. I always will be. When done properly, I think it's one of the most honorable professions on the planet, helping individuals and organizations buy products and services that build their business or grow their life is as cool as it gets. And I get to work with some great clients that also have that same sort of mindset about what great professional sales is all about. That's it's hard to call it work. I love what I do. Somebody asked me the other day, when are you going to retire? I said, from what to what?
Never.
Why would I want to retire from this? Are you kidding me? No way. So in the thumbnail, that's what we do. We help clients select, develop, and retain top sales talent.
Okay, so I want to know more about your sales background, but let's talk about you used the word selection.
Right.
And so tell me more about the selection part. When you are working with sales leaders and sales leadership organizations, tell me about that selection part, because I think you're very unique in this area.
Yeah, Betty, it kind of became a byproduct. I'm sure your business is the same way. You started doing some things you weren't doing before because your clients had needs. Well, we would develop training programs for clients and go in and do 1 day, 4 days. Some of my clients, we've done as much as 3 weeks of sales training in a row. And I would stand in front of their salespeople. And at the end of the whole process, the leadership would ask me, what do you think? And I would say, permission to speak freely. And they said, yes. And I'd say, you've got some really good ones, but you've got some people that don't need to be in sales. They don't need to be in your company. They're not the right raw material for that sales training to have the kind of impact that you deserve based upon the investment you made. One of the things illustrations I use said, if you gave Van Gogh a burlap sack, he could probably paint a pretty decent, picture. But if you give him a gray canvas, he'll paint a masterpiece. And right now you're painting on a burlap sack. And now that's a little hard for them. And I want to be very clear about this. I totally understand. Every person in every seat is a name, a face, a family, a person. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm saying they should not necessarily be in sales. Or perhaps that company needs hunters to go out and grow business, but they have a sales force full of farmers who are great at maintaining business. I help them get some vision for how to go about selecting better talent. We do benchmarking, assessment, comparative analysis for the process of selection, as well as we do benchmarking, assessment, comparative analysis for the benefit of designing better sales training programs as well. So let's get the right people on the bus, and then your sales training is going to have a lot more impact than if we don't. So clients will come to me and go, hey, we realize we have the wrong people on the bus. Can you help us? And I go, yes, I can. We use a very unique set of tools. We do measure behaviors, and I'm going to say something that may get under the skin of some of your listeners out there, particularly if they're leaders. But behaviors like DISC, Bertman, Caliper, Myers-Briggs, name them, it doesn't matter. They do not, cannot, will not, have not ever predicted performance. All right. I have clients that say, I want a high D, high I. And I go, that does not predict performance. Now, it's very valuable information. We teach an entire course on behavioral selling. How do you find out the behavior of your client? How do you sell to them according to that behavior? Not chameleon-like, but in the desire to better communicate with that client. Are they a high D? Are they a high I? Whatever. Are they an economic buyer, user buyer, technical buyer? We teach all of that. So it's very valuable information, but it does not predict performance. The second thing we measure are 6, what we call workplace motivators. They do predict performance to some extent, in that the top people that we benchmark in sales all had the same 2 motivators, money and control, either 1, 2, or 2, 1. They want the control that comes with being the best of the best, or they want the money, or both, that comes with it.
That is so true. It's
so
true.
That is a significant enough predictor. But what we measure that is the differentiator in our process is we measure 25 core skills. That's who people are on the inside. It's not typing skills or accounting skills. It's internal skills. And I'll give you the first 3. I tell clients every now and then, let's just get the first 3 right and we can forget the other 22. Now, we do go 7 deep and we look at the back end of it to see what's not important, but they would be resiliency. It's the ability to bounce back from adversity, personal accountability. I do what I said I'm going to do because I said I would, and continuous learning. You give me somebody who's resilient, all right, which means they frame life properly. When something goes wrong, they frame it properly. If somebody misses a meeting, I'm sorry, I have to cancel my meeting, and they lose their mind over it and don't go back to work for 2 days, that's not proper framing.
Right.
The best salespeople, something goes wrong, they go, next, let's get back after it, because they got so much going on. One bad deal. Now, if my grandmother passes away, I should be appropriately shaken by that. So it goes both ways there, but resiliency is a huge skill set. And then personal accountability. I do what I said I'm going to do because I said I would. The best of the best don't know any other way to do it other than I do what I said I was. That's the way I grew up. Both of those, by the way, are products of the address we grew up at, and both are very difficult to change. I can move the needle on those, but I'm not going to turn a 3 into a 10 very rarely. Now, God may do that work, but I'm not going to be able to do that. And then that third one, continuous learning, it means that they're always learning and growing and trying to get better, which means during COVID, rather than sitting around moping, spending half a day in a deli trying to find out if I'm going to go back to work, they bounce right back. They take responsibility for the results, and they learn how to deal with COVID using techniques and technology. By the way, I was working with a client the other day, and their salespeople are up in productivity because they become more efficient with this.
Yes.
They're doing sales calls like this and phone. Now, instead of seeing 5 people a day, they're talking to 12 or 15 a day. So the best salespeople are resilient, they have personal accountability, and they're constantly growing. Now, we always look at another 3 or 4 that tend to be culturally important, but those are what we call the big 3.
I couldn't agree more with you on your top 3. You're right, because before this podcast, I was doing some research as far as how COVID has affected sales organizations and some of the issues that people have, the ability to change, the adaptability to different systems and processes, the resiliency needed. And there was a McKinsey study out there that literally said sales are up. Sales are up. They're seeing an uptick over 2019. I was scratching my head a little bit. And you're exactly right. Because the people that are resilient and can change don't mind switching over to the technology.
Right.
They learn the Zoom, they learn the systems, they learn whatever they need. They're going to get the microphone, they're going to get the camera, and then their personalities. You have to be a little bit different on a Zoom call, you know that. And then they work it, and it becomes fun for them. And you're exactly right. They can see more people this way. They can get their point across.
Absolutely.
And isn't that amazing? Because initially, when I started doing the research, I thought everything was going to be down. And yeah, some companies and people are hurting. But at the same time, if they do exactly what you said, follow through, be transparent, be honest, be accountable, absolutely. And then continue learning. And we all have to do that because whether we like it or not, I believe we're all having to reinvent ourselves through this COVID. Everybody, we are all having to reinvent ourselves. And that's part of the resiliency and continuing to learn and continue to grow. I couldn't agree with you more. I love that. That's super.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me be totally transparent as well. I have another client I had a call with yesterday and everything's in the dumper. I mean, everything's, in the trash. And I'm talking to the CEO and he's asking me, why do you think that is? And I said, permission to speak freely. And he said, okay. I said, I have a client just like you who's doing better. The difference is leadership. All right. When there's a problem at the front line, always look at leadership first. And there's a problem with leadership believing we're not going to make this happen. Leadership isn't resilient. Leadership isn't personally accountable. Leadership isn't willing to learn and grow. So I said, if you want me to help you, and I'd love to do that because we can make a difference, we're going to have to start with your leadership team first. Now, I've told many.
How did they take that?
Yeah, I've told many clients that in the past, and some of them, that's the last conversation I have with them. And then others, though, it's the beginning of some great conversations. When leadership owns the problem, then we have a shot at making frontline people own the problem as well. So that is a product of the times, but it's a byproduct of the leadership's personality and culture as well. So it's not all, roses and everything, but it certainly can be. Yeah,
I get you. I understand. And that's true. It comes from the top down. They've got to set the mode. It's cultural. I'm finding a lot of my keynotes right now, they want to talk about the new culture and the culture after post-COVID. And right. So people want, because it's going to change a little bit. That's fine. But let's get going on developing that culture now and doing what we need to do to have it in place for when we want to really rock and roll. I totally agree with you. So I've got a question for you. So you get the right candidates, you make the right selection, you have the right selection process. Then earlier when I was introducing you, you have this wide variance of customers that you work with. I mean, you got really, really big guys, and then you got smaller clients. How the heck do you create the correct sales training program? Does one work for all of them, or do you have to customize each one?
Yes, and yes.
There you go. Okay, we took care of that.
So interesting. I have a coaching client right now that I was working with yesterday, and he goes, how do you do this with such a wide variety of clients? And I said, I have a process. All right. Or for my European clients, I have a process, if you will. We do needs assessment. We develop the program, we pilot the program, we then tweak it, then we roll it out, then we measure the results, and then it leads back to assessment, development, rollout. It's a cycle, if you will. I would tell you that I think the thing we do best for our clients is we do a great job of assessing what they really need. That said, and I hope none of my clients are listening because they'll want to beat me upside the head, all sales are the same thing. They're all the same. Now they all think they're different. Now, when you speak to clients, you use your subject matter, you customize it, and certainly we do that, but they all have the same problems. So our sales training is going to come out of 4 buckets, very simply.
Okay.
Bucket number 1 is the sales process. All right.
Gotcha.
Bucket number 2 is understanding your value proposition. What's your corporate value proposition? What's your product service value proposition? And what is the individual salesperson's value proposition in the marketplace? And really getting a firm grip on value. I know the value of what I do. I know the change we've made in clients' businesses. I know that our process is going to deliver that. I can quantify that change as well. Most of my clients, they know the value proposition, but they can't quantify it economically, which is the most important way to quantify nowadays than ever before. And I'll give you a good example of that. I was working with a client called Axel Nobel with one of their divisions called International Paint. They paint ocean-going vessels, the big gigantic tankers, cruise ships. They have like 60% of the yacht business in the world. And we're doing their pilot program, and I'd learned a lot about them. And I said, tell me something you do that nobody else does. And by the way, we call those value propositions hammers. That's something it's a hammer. It's something we do, nobody else does. And they said, we have Intersleek 900. I said, tell me about it. And so you paint an ocean going vessel and it picks up 2 knots an hour. I go, what's the economic impact of that? Their number 1 maritime salesperson in the world said, I never thought about that. And in the back of my head, I went, how do you not know the answer to that?
Ching, because that's going to separate him from everybody else.
I said, let's do a little analysis here. Give me a client. So long story short, client with 30 ocean-going vessels, trips to China and back, container ship, 10,000 containers, $1,000 a container, could do 2.5 more trips a year at 2 knots an hour difference. That came up to like $74 million. So he went to the client and said, hey, we just did this. We call it cocktail napkin economics. So he did this and he came back and he said, the client doesn't want to do 2 more trips a year. I go, no. He goes, no, but we figured out they could pull back on the throttle and save 6% of their operating cost, which we decided was $127 million a year. Now they were selling this product $1,200 a gallon, by the way, and discounting it 40% without a manager's approval.
Mm-hmm.
They no longer do that, by the way. Second thing is they only had to paint every 5 years. Their nearest competitor has to paint every 3 years. Cha-ching. It's biocide free. Their nearest competitor has to put biocides in there to kill anything that tries to stick to the hull. This thing is so slick, they have to put a primer down to even paint the boat first. And their nearest competitor is 5 years away from having the same product.
There you go. And nobody else does what they can offer.
They had 5 products like that. I can't tell you the number I put straight to the bottom line, but it was close to 7-figure number. Now you can call their CEO and he'll tell you on the phone how much it was, but he won't let me put it out because he said I look dumb. I know the value of what we do. Most clients don't know that value. And if you don't mind, Betti, I'm going to do a real kind of shameless plug here.
Do it.
We're going to be doing some programs for North Texas Speakers Association, the chapter of the National Speakers Association. First program's on October 20th. It's called The Art of the Big Deal. We're going to be talking about these things. Then we're going to do a 6-week program, and I'm going to walk them through all of these details, exactly how it's done, the same thing we teach our clients. If anybody's listening out there and they're not in the speaker business, but they want to learn how to sell, they can sign up and join us for the program. I promise while we're going to talk about speakers, trainers, consultants, and coaches, they'll still be able to translate that into selling cars or paint or fill in the blank, houses, you name it.
Right.
They'll do the same thing. So we teach value proposition selling, and we want them to absolutely own the value at a corporate level, product level. And then I want the salesperson to understand the value they personally bring to the table. So that's a long way of saying that's bucket 2. Bucket 3 is how do you build what we call level 5 relationships?
Okay.
Where you are a trusted advisor, not a vendor. There is a process for that. And then the 4th bucket is our A players only assessment, benchmark, comparative analysis work. So whatever the client says their problem is, Jim, I need for you to teach my salespeople how to handle the price is too high, which is a part of the sales process, right? as I do my assessment, my digging in, and I'll talk to them, I'll talk to as many sales managers, I'll talk to as many salespeople. I ride with salespeople. I look at their marketing material, I look at their websites, I look at everything. The best compliment that I ever receive, and I get it every now and then, are you internal? And I go, excuse me, do you work for us? No. You're external? Yeah. You know more than my sales manager knows.
You've done your homework. Yeah.
You know what, Betti, and you do the same thing. I know you do, because I know you. When you stand in front of an audience and they know you've done your homework and you just didn't open up a can and add their name to it, there's a credibility piece that comes with that. And
Absolutely.
so I think that's my responsibility. I will never do anything less than that. And so I will go through all of that, and they're going to need eventually some of all 4 buckets. And quite frankly, I'm going to teach this in the first webinar we do in North Texas National Speakers Association. Doing your homework and knowing all that you have to offer is how you build value on value on value. And I may do this project without them having any knowledge that the next project's going to follow, but I know it's going to follow because I know at the end the result of the first project's going to be. So all sales training is the same. Yes, they're different. Yes, they have different language. Yes, they have different clients, but I learn enough to translate all of our sales training into their language as if I work for them. I've actually had clients offer to hire me to go to work and sell their product.
I bet.
Axel Nobel offered me the opportunity to do that in Europe for them. It was going to pay me to help open 8 major accounts for them. And my wife couldn't see living in Europe for about 2 years. So that's a long answer to say, yes, it's all the same. And yes, it's all different, but you got to do your homework.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And the whole process. And I can't wait to hear you. And we're going to talk about that later on our podcast, how people can sign up for that. So you've gone through the process, the needs assessment, what is needed, and then you go through finding the right people. How do you keep them? How do you keep the right people? How do you retain those people, those really phenomenal people that you want on the team that are good? What is the secret to retention, and how do you do that? Especially today, because we got COVID and then we have millennials, and millennials are pretty famous for job hopping and going different different companies. So how do you retain them? What's the secret?
Well, first thing, that's a question the client eventually asked me as well. Okay, we're going to do all this work. How do I keep people on board? And I tell them, first thing, we're going to create an environment where nobody would ever want to go anywhere else. Okay. Second thing is, when they do, we bless them and send them on their way because we did the job of helping them get to the place they could do something better. But counting upstream and downstream, comp plans, marketing materials, websites, all the support material, is the warehouse ship when it says it's going to, all of those kinds of things. At the end of the day, the best bang for the buck, if a client says, I can't afford all of that, I've only got this much money, where should I spend it? I'll say, it's not where you think it is. And they'll go, okay, it's with sales management. All right. If you've got 1 sales manager and 10 salespeople and you can't afford for me to train the 10 salespeople, let me coach the sales manager, because he or she can impact 10 people. If you've got 100 salespeople and 3 sales managers, let me train and coach them. If you have 1,000 salespeople and 50 sales managers, let me build a program to train them how to do all of that. And basically, it's kind of like a train the trainer program. Let me teach them how to be great at what they do. Because I'll never forget the first day I was made a manager. I got promoted. The first question my boss asked me is, do you want to be a manager? I go, yeah, I want to be a manager. And so he promoted me. And he made me a manager, and he came into my office and he said, first day, 8 a.m., I'm there early. Are you a salesperson or are you a sales manager? I said, I'm a sales manager. He goes, no, you're not. I thought, I've been fired already. I haven't even done anything. I got fired. He goes, you're still in sales. Your job now is to sell your salespeople on doing what's in their best interest first, by the way,
Yes.
and in the best interest of the company second.
Yes.
Their best interest first, best interest of the company second. He said, if you do a great job of the first one, they'll grab the second one. And so when you teach sales managers that their job is to sell the sales people in their best interest and the company's best interest, the same thing I would teach a client It's in their interest to hire me. For salespeople, it's in their best interest to buy from me. It's the same process. It's the exact same thing. And then we teach them how to select better. We teach them how to coach. We teach them how to do all those things in order to make them more valuable. So retention really starts with the sales leadership, because the number one reason people leave is
usually they
failure to connect with their manager.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
immediate
exactly
supervisor.
right.
It's number one reason people leave.
Never the money. It's the culture and it's the leadership. You're right.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's like in horsepower, which is what I always go back to and refer to besides momentum is horsepower. And horses travel in herds and they have a herd leader. And so they'll stick with that herd leader until that herd leader lets them down. And when that herd leader lets them down, puts him in some kind of precarious situation or does it, take care of them when it's a threatening situation, they'll find a new herd leader.
Right. And
organizations are the same way, absolutely the same way. Leadership is so important. I'm so happy that you encourage your sales leadership teams when you're teaching salespeople, hey, you're part of the issue. You're part of how this is all going to work like a well-run machine, and you pull them on in. I like that.
Interesting enough, and we call it speed of the leader, speed of the pack.
Yes.
Interestingly enough, in our very large sales training programs, as we spend a lot of time just doing design work and development work. What I'll tell the company leadership, CEO, CFO, VP of sales, whatever, is that your sales managers need to go through the class first by themselves. Then they need to repeat the class with their salespeople. And here's why. If they go through the sales training program first, they'll then know what I'm going to teach their salespeople. So they'll be prepared to reinforce that and coach that. And if they don't go through the sales program with their salespeople, the salespeople are going to say, my manager needs to be here. My manager needs to hear that. And so when we have them all in there together, it becomes it's a momentum builder in that they all get on the same page, common language, common direction. And
that's the way it should work. That is absolutely the way it should work. Yes, I totally agree. So I'm beginning to see a pattern here, Jim. I'm seeing a pattern here of how this all fits into your business model of speaking, training, consulting, coaching. I just love it. And you have such a profound message out there that every organization needs to hear. I love this. And we even need to hear this if we're selling ourselves as speakers or selling ourselves in our community or selling ourselves to our kids or understanding the value proposition. Hey, if you do this for me, here's what you're actually going to get from it. And here's the benefit you're going to see. And that's so important. We forget that. We forget that. So this is incredibly important. I love it. Jim, I got a question for you. What is it like to work with you? Everybody is listening to this podcast or watching the podcast. What's it like working with Jim Jacobus? First thing, Betti, that's a great question. And I think most speakers would have a hard time answering that. But let's go back to value proposition. I know my value proposition. Yeah. The first thing I'll tell you is I get results. All right. I'm going to put money to their bottom line. I'm going to deliver the results that they need and probably more than they thought they were going to get. My favorite saying is the money you're going to pay me is chump change based upon what's going to happen to your bottom line. But then I think the second value proposition that I bring to the table is I'm very easy to work with. I am not a prima donna. I don't need green M&Ms. If I show up and the tables are not where they're supposed to be, I'm going to help put them back together. Something goes wrong, I'm not going to lose my mind or anything. I've always told speakers, if something goes wrong, the audience will respond the way you do. If you freak out, they'll freak out. If you just go, so what? They'll go, so what? And so I would tell you that I deliver results and I'm a really easy guy to work with. The third thing I'll tell you is people like processes, particularly high-level decision makers. They need for you to say, we're going to do A, B, C, and D. Because then they know what the roadmap is. They have an easier time investing. Kathy Lovelace said something a long, long time ago that impacted me at a very high level. Beautiful, wonderful NSA member and I think probably a round table or something like that. Decision maker has an easier time writing a check for 6 figures that they know will deliver results than they do your keynote fee. They know everybody will forget before they go to bed tonight. It's true. I've never forgotten that. So
I deliver results. I'm easy to work with, and I'm going to make it fun for them and for their people as well.
I love that. I love that attitude, and that attitude becomes contagious with other people. I came across a quote, and tell me what you think about this. The quote is, "Sales are contingent upon the attitude of the salesman, not the attitude of the prospect." Sales are contingent upon the attitude of the salesman, not the attitude of the prospect. What do you think?
I would agree with that, because I've stood in front of clients that have great attitudes, and I won that business.
Yeah.
When you stand in front of a client that's got a lousy attitude and you win that business, that's the fun part. That's the challenge.
You made that turnaround. Yeah.
That's the challenge. But I can tell you this, if I had a bad attitude, I probably would not win the business from the people with a great attitude. And I really wouldn't win the business from the people that had a bad attitude. So I do think that's key. I think, being confident, knowing what you do, having a great attitude, go back to the resiliency. I know I have a very high level of resiliency. Something goes wrong, I'm like, so what next? Let's just deal with it. Let's go.
Move on. You move on.
So I think I would say that's true. And unfortunately today it's showing up in results, both plus and minus.
That's right. You just keep pushing forward. And I think that's where the momentum also comes in. Momentum demands movement. So we have to just kind of keep pushing forward, even when we fall on our face or something doesn't work out or we hit a movable force. We just keep moving forward. Momentum demands movement. We keep moving. And then when we've got that momentum going, we play the momentum. And I love that feeling. And that's when I have sold something phenomenal. Oh my God, that feels so good. I just keep it rocking and rolling as long as I possibly can. I love
Absolutely.
it. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so Jim, tell our now the people that are watching our podcast, your contact information is going to come on the bottom of the screen. But for those of our audience that are just listening, tell them your contact information and how they can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. They can go to our website, www.jjacobus.com, the initial jjacobus.com. They can email me, jim@jjacobus.com. I obviously have Facebook pages, website, all of those kinds of things. They can reach out any way they want to. They're welcome to call me. You can put my phone number down there. They can call or text me if they want to.
Tell them your phone number. Tell them for those listeners. Tell them.
You bet. 281-725-8367. It's 281-725-8367. Let me warn you, I will not answer the first time because I don't answer phone numbers. I'm not familiar with who they are. But if you'll text me and say, I'm getting ready to call you, I saw you on Momentum with Betti Coffey, then I will certainly answer that phone call. If not, I'll certainly answer. I'll call you back if you'll leave a message.
Jim, you've been fantastic. I mean, you are the essence of momentum and keeping it going, and nothing's going to hold you back. And I just love that. And I love what you shared today. It has so many profound concepts and ideas for people now to take with them and move forward. And that's what it's all about.
Well, Betti, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And you know what just dawned on me?
What?
We didn't share this with people, but I'm sitting in our RV in Maine, right off of Frenchman's Bay. Our RV is a Grand Design Momentum 399TH.
Is it really? Momentum?
It is. It's a Grand Design Momentum 399TH. And it's such a blessing to be with you. I love your enthusiasm, your contagiousness, your momentum and everything. And again, thanks for the privilege of being with you and with your folks.
Well, it's been a privilege and a pleasure to have you. And to everybody out there, remember, when you've got momentum and the right mindset, anything can be accomplished. You will achieve everything you want to achieve, no matter what the heck's going on. So go on out there, like the podcast, share the podcast, give me 5 stars if you want. I'll go with 4. Contact me. Tell me what you like, what you didn't like. I will always respond back to your comments. Thank you for being here. Go live with momentum. Thank you, Jim, and I'll see everybody next time. Thank you very much. Take care. Live with momentum. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Morning Momentum with Coffey. Momentum matters more than strength. Your persistence will always win. Drive change, ignite cultures, and accelerate growth with your own personal momentum. To find out more about Betti, follow her on Facebook at Betti Coffey Presents for more inspiring stories just like this one. If you liked what you heard, leave us a rating and review. And if you want to hear more, subscribe to Morning Momentum with Coffey on your favorite podcasting platform. And remember, the greater the momentum, the harder it is to stop. Momentum creates motivation. Motivation creates opportunity. And opportunity creates results. See you next time.